starting already.
I played piano first when I was maybe about 9 or 10, and my dad used to sort of get me to listen to like blues, sort of boogie-woogie blues piano stuff, and I sort of just used to listen to Ray Charles records and sort of try and work out all this sort of loose stuff. I never really learned to read music, you know. I always had a bit of a difficulty with being taught stuff. I always preferred to do it on my own. I remember I had like one lesson and I gave up after one lesson because the teacher was telling me I need to work on this finger like for about a year, and I said, no, I'd rather just play some blues. You know what I mean? I don't want to like just do that for a year. That was actually my first sort of performance I ever did. Actually, was a sort of blues piano thing in school. It was like a talent contest or something like that, and I won it, and I sort of was like playing. And up until then, I was really shy, embarrassed about playing in front of people, and I think that changed me from then on. I realised that I liked actually playing on stage a bit. I sort of got into it.
I think I was in like one of the first bands at school, like in our age group anyway. And then eventually our guitarist, it wasn't happening with our guitarist, so we got Matt in to play the guitar. So we knew we could play the guitar, seen him around school, didn't really know him too well, you know. He had like a flat top and a shell suit. And, but he could play the guitar pretty well, and we had like long hair and Ned's Atomic Dustbin t-shirts on.
But you don't have the time, so look the other way.
Came Muse in April '94. We'd had this gig booked at there's a roller disco in Dawlish, Warren, which is near to Timoth. And moments before we went on stage, there's all these people just skating around in this circle, not interested in the band at all. And the guy came on, he said, "Oh, what are you called?" And about 3 seconds before we went on, it was Muse. And he went, "All right, here's Muse." Started playing, all these people were skating around. There's a massive gap in front of the stage where no one was standing, and everyone was just skating. It was a really weird moment.
You could be my unintended choice to live my life extended. You could be the one I'll always love.
There's nothing to do, do you know what I mean, in the town where we're from, when you're like 16, you can't really get into the pubs, you can't drink, and there's no really place to go at all, so everyone just ends up hanging down the seafront, getting into fights and doing drugs and getting beaten up by old guys driving Capris, you know what I mean? I think someone said who was surprised that all these bands were happening. So there's actually quite a lot of bands, and there's all this other creative stuff going on as well that seems to be quite positive, and it's like, it was almost because there was nothing else to do that all was coming out of it, and someone said, oh, it was like a mysterious Muse was like hanging around. I think at that time in my life I was all like into all this like mystery stuff, you know. I was like doing all Ouija boards every day and trying to contact dead people, and I was trying to get with this girl who was like a witch, and she was like really hot, and she had a couple of mates who were witches, and they sort of did stuff together, and I sort of thought it was all a little bit cool. And so I think at the time I was quite influenced by that, and I thought the word Muse would have worked as a name.
Started having it seriously when Dennis from Sawmills got involved, and he gave us some free studio time, and basically said, go in, do some demos, and we'll see what happens. And that was the first time we'd been in a studio, proper studio, and been given a chance to record some of the songs properly.
Sort of had this idea to sort of just print a limited edition EP and just start playing it around gigs and selling it in gigs, and for the first one sort of sold a little bit. We were selling it mostly at gigs, and then because the first one did quite well, it sort of sold quite fast. There's only 1,000 copies of each. The second one we put in some independent record shops, and it all sold real quick, and it got in like the independent charts, and so it's just sort of gradually built like that. And then we also got like a little play on the evening session from that EP.
And it's around that time where we started building up a bit more of a fan base locally, and then then we actually got a chance to go on tour and tour around the rest of the country, and then get into Europe as well. And a few like American labels sort of got a little bit interested. few different labels were getting interested, and they start sort of treating you well, and you know, giving you limousines and first-class flights and that sort of thing. You know, so they treat you really well and sort of treat you like you're famous or something.
At the time I had a job, I was painting and decorating. I was doing all these sort of crappy jobs like painting and decorating and cleaning shit out of caravans and all this sort of stuff. And I was suddenly on a plane first class going to New York in a limousine, jumping out and then doing this gig in like New York and then going down to LA and hanging out on the Oscar ceremony party and going, "Hi Gwyneth," you know, and all this crap. And it was like, and then going back and painting houses and cleaning shit and so that was quite a surreal experience.
Yeah, we just did like a few little showcases down in LA, in Santa Monica and in Hollywood. The one we did for Maverick is quite funny because this guy just turned up with, it was in this tiny little rehearsal room, this guy called Guy turned up with like the guitarist from the Sex Pistols and a couple of lawyers, and it was just like us in this room. We played like 2 songs and he went, "Okay, that's it, I want to sign you now." And we're like, what's going on? And
then what happened is that all these like quite cool independent labels started getting interested, you know what I mean? And that's what I like about labels like Mushroom, Naive from France and Motor from Germany. They're all sort of pretty independent companies that we ended up sort of attaching ourselves to in a weird way.
When we first started thinking about the first album, we had a whole load of songs that were done obviously in the past before we got signed. But the rest of the songs, they were like a few were done in the studio, like Unintended and Sunburn. They sort of happened in the studio at that time.
I wasn't really too worried about what people would think about it. I more just wanted to make something that I knew that I'd like myself, or something I knew that I'd want to listen to. And so I was just putting all my effort into putting something down that I'd want to like, you know, I'd get into. Because then at least I'd know that if it ever did get liked by a large amount of people, it was something that is in me or something from me. And so I always wanted to make the music as personal as possible, and I was always putting as much personal input into it and getting trying to put a lot of emotion into it and all that.
One of the main things we wanted to do with the second album was try and make it sound a bit more like we do on stage, you know. And seeing as, you know, we were doing so much of that after the first album was released, it's obviously a good time to go in and try and do it. Because
people always came to the gigs and say, "Oh, what you do live on stage is so much better than the album. It's much more full on and more exciting and stuff." So I think on the second album we're trying to get a bit more of that. And I think we're still working on that now. I think on the third album we're just trying to capture what we do when we're on stage, trying to get that in the studio. I think I'm not sure if it's because we're a bit nervous or something. I think we were very nervous at first in the studio, and that's probably why it came out a bit soft sounding compared to what it was when we were on stage, when we were a bit more relaxed.
I think most of the first sort of year and a half we spent supporting bands. We did a tour with Skunk Anansie and tour with Feeder in the UK, and then did the Chili Peppers in the States. That was really good, because I think that was the first time we'd gone out and done like arenas.
Doing a tour with like Chili Peppers and Foo Fighters was a big turning point in our approach to what we do on stage and how we thought about playing live generally. We sort of had it in us from when we first started out. Because when we first started out, we were playing with our mates. Like when we were 16, it was like really cool, and as everyone getting into it. Then we went through a big sort of period of like about 18, 19, 20, and no one really came to our gigs. And we all became very introverted. You know, I think we became very introverted on stage and very sort of shy and everything. And then when we went out on the Chili Peppers, we were playing like these big arenas, like maybe 15,000, 20,000, some of them 25,000 capacity venues. And the crowd were just like mental, you know. They'd just rock, and like, the more riffs we played, and the more heavy we played, the more they got into it.
I love you, man. You're beautiful. This is the coolest. I love you. You guys were fucking rocking tonight. You were like, you were like jumping like a motherfucker, and then you like flew. I got like $5 left because I bought your CD. See, I am an official Muse fan now. You're one of my favorite bands now because I never heard of you. And then I saw you, I was like having orgasms. I was like, the fucking, oh my god, you guys are. That's the way.
It's like every gig, you know, just playing was good enough, and then coming off stage and watching the Foo Fighters and Chili Peppers as well every night, it was just absolutely incredible.
And it's the first time in my life that I was playing on a big stage with a lot of space to run around. And because up until then it had all been really cramped playing these little pubs and stuff. and then suddenly we're out on this massive open space with a massive expanse of people everywhere.
There's only 3 of us, and you sort of have to move around more, and you have to fill the space a little bit more. And then watching the way the Chili Peppers were on stage, they just seemed to enjoy it so much, and I think that was like a big influence on the way the live show is now, I think.
I think it changed our confidence on stage, at least. I think we just became a bit more sort of, who gives a fuck? I mean, let's just go for it. Let's just go for it. Let's just give everything we got whilst we're here, you know. So I think you get a sense. I sort of managed to get a sensation of the short period of time that our life lasts for, and like playing in front of like 20,000 people, you sort of think, you know, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit up here and whinge about it? Am I going to just fucking like go for it and go mental and like give everything to it? And that's like, I just thought, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
We've always like tried to have a laugh on the road and have some fun and party as much as we can. We generally we do the gigs, which are always pretty energetic, and full on, and the crowd always seem to get into it and love it. And then afterwards, we like to try and meet people and have parties and mess about and get loads of people in our dressing room and turn the stereo up full and turn the lights off and see what happens.
When I sort of have a bit of a party or a bit of a gathering with people who are in the gig or whatever, it helps you sort of understand who you're playing for, and it doesn't make you think you're too separated from them, whatever like that. When we're touring around different countries, there's like groups of people who like follow us around and come to all the gigs, and like sometimes we have a big party, sometimes we don't, sometimes we just have a gathering on the bus or whatever. There's like groups of people who sort of hang around. It's like this sort of weird gypsy-ish sort of existence that we have, and we're sort of just having these parties in random locations, and I think it's all right. I like it a lot.
AW Music.